Welcome back to the Sedona International Film Festival 2020 live stream. I'm Tanya June Moore. I want to say thank you so much to the Sedona Advertising Agency, Broadcast Rentals, and the Sedona Rouge for making the media room possible this year. That's how we're coming to you live all over the world. And two great filmmakers here. Yes. Introduce yourselves in your movie, please.
Andrea DeGeorge, and I made the movie From Beacon to the Border.
I'm Catherine Cole. I'm the executive director of Grannies Respond, which is an organization that came out of the product of Andrea's film.
And she was one of the grannies on the. She doesn't like me calling her a granny. But
Grannies are important. Grannies are important.
I'm not a granny yet.
But you're an honorary granny.
That's it.
Honorary, I like that. So you guys have been here for a couple of days at the festival.
Yeah.
What's it been like?
Oh, it's wonderful. Everybody's so warm and inviting, and I'm very full from all the food.
Yeah, the food is definitely talked
Wonderful.
about a lot. And I know you guys were at the party last night and having a
Yes.
good time. I saw
Oh.
you enjoying other
Keeps
people.
going on, the fun.
Yes, every day is a new adventure here.
I'm very impressed about the amount of community that puts this together. Unbelievable.
And you
Yeah.
guys have already screened once.
Yes.
It was the day you came in.
Yeah.
And people are talking about this movement, which is what we want in this film, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's a very important topic.
Yes, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
What is this movie about and why?
It's about a bunch of grandparents in 2018, in the summer of 2018, were horrified by the separation of families at the border. And an organization called Grannies Respond came out of it, and it went viral. And 30 people from Beacon, New York, rented some vans and drove from Beacon, New York to McallenTexas protesting the separation of families. And we stopped in many cities along the way. And I was crazy enough to say, I'm going to follow you with two young filmmakers that just graduated college. This is my first try at a film. And I followed the grannies through the movement. And it was quite incredible.
It's really inspiring. And where did you come up with this whole idea to put this together?
I did not. A gentleman named Dan M.R. Blair in my town of Beacon was sitting with some friends and said they were all ticked off about the separation of children. He said, why don't we put a bunch of grannies on a bus and go down there? And I knew him, but I hadn't seen him in a while. And I ran into him and I said, so what are you up to? And he told me, and I went, how can I help?
You're in.
Yeah.
You're in, 100%.
Yeah.
Man, there are some powerful voices in this video.
Yes.
I had no idea what was really happening. It was really good to see the footage of the truth. Any surprises along the way that made you both
Yes.
go, oh my goodness?
Well, I mean, the surprises were the support that we got, and the people, everybody was pretty much that we met was, horrified about this policy. Family separation has been going on for years. This is really nothing new.
Right.
But what was new was it was a policy set in place at the border to deter migrants that basically are running for their lives. Most people have no choice. We had once I know I heard a quote from a Guatemalan boy who said one time, if I stay where I am, I'm going to die. If I leave, I might die. So the choices are, heart-wrenching for some of these families.
And for you?
The surprises were the amount of support we got along the way, the amount of awakening that occurred from this journey. People were very upset watching the news in their living room, but didn't feel any power to do anything. So when they saw us going to the border, it was like, oh, thank God, And it woke up a lot of activism.
Yes.
It did. It created a lot of activism and awareness.
One of the things that I noticed that really struck me as lovely is the diversity of color, of age, of, represented here. This isn't about conservative or liberal or old or young. It's about people coming together for humanity.
It's about compassion.
And compassion, yes.
And one of the star grannies she's from India.
Yes.
And her name is Rachna, and everything Rachna said always made sense. And she wasn't, we're all migrants.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And So there's a policy. I don't think people know about this policy.
Well, right now, what's happened is people were allowed into people that were seeking asylum were allowed into the country. That has changed. It's the migrant protection policy. So what we've decided to do right now is say, well, you're seeking asylum, you might have a credible fear case, but we're going to make you wait in Mexico until you can get your court dates. And what's happened is there are tent cities now at the border, right over the border in Mexico, and it's a humanitarian crisis. The cities, there are people sitting there waiting for court dates that might not come. And people are being kidnapped in these tent cities. There's cartels that roam through, Mexican cartels. They're being raped, they're being robbed, and this is a creation of a humanitarian crisis down there.
And I know you're looking for some funding to finish out an update on this film.
Well, I want to go back down and really get more footage on the tents now that have occurred. You want to tell them a little bit about what the grannies were doing beforehand?
Well, we've had various projects, and one of the main projects we started with, we called the Overground Railroad, and it was people, as a result of our trip to the border. We had a conference at the end of that trip, and we had activists come in and speak that were permanent volunteers at the border, and it became obvious that there was a need for when people were released from ICE and traveling across the country on buses, 2 or 4 day journeys, that they had no diapers, they had no formula, no sanitary feminine products, they had no food, often, always no shoelaces and belts, because they're taken when you're incarcerated. And they had been held in the hilera, which is the ice box, for several days at a very cold temperature under the guise of preventing disease. But you had little babies, children, sleeping on cement floors with thin mylar blankets. So they were held like that for days and days, and then released to Gen Pop, where they were maybe months in detention until finally released. And then they're traveling on these buses, and they have nothing. Their medications have been confiscated. They're all their possessions that they traveled with, which is hardly anything. And they're traveling with maybe a grocery bag of some stuff they've been given. So our groups organically sprang up and went in various cities where they came from and started going to those buses.
And what's happened is now that because of the migrant protection policy, they're not coming through as much. So Grannies Respond is going into and over the borders and helping at the tent camps.
We send volunteers to the other organizations at the border. People come from around the country to volunteer at the border.
And we're trying to get
funding for that.
We have websites, granniesrespond.org, which you can go on and you can volunteer and donate money. And my website is from beacontotheborder.com. I've already had 17 public screenings in churches, synagogues, and also a couple. And what I want to do is use this as a vehicle to get the word out. Anybody interested in having a screening, please go to the website, and I'd be happy to come, and you can screen the film.
I wish you the best of luck. I really hope this one goes out there virally so people understand what's really happening. And I know you have another showing tonight, correct?
Today at 1:20.
Today at 1:20.
The Real 2?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a really good one to see. It's really up to date on things that are happening, even though it's a couple of years old. It's worse now. Stay tuned. We will be back live very shortly with another filmmaker. And our hashtags this year are hashtag Sedona Film Fest 2020 and Sedona Film Fest 26.